Tyrone Bowman live. While everyone else has been talking about the No Kings protest and the military parade for celebrating and honoring the 79th birthday of President Trump, there's a story that I think individuals have missed, and I'm going to talk about it starting today. And that is the deadly shooting and death of Democratic state lawmakers down in Minnesota. And this is a deep story, and I think there is something to this story, and I'm going to continue to research it, and I think it is linked politically. All right, I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Live. Let's talk about this story. According to Reuters, the headline reads, a Minnesota manhunt underway for suspect in deadly shooting of Democratic state lawmakers. So this is the summary. A Minnesota state assemblywoman and her husband were both murdered. And the gunman who posted as a police officer, currently the search is underway from the Minnesota police as well as the FBI. The suspect, identified as Vance Luther Boelter, he's 57 years of age, and a second Minnesota state lawmaker's wife has been seriously wounded. Minnesota police and the FBI kept up a massive manhunt on Saturday evening for a gunman posing as a police officer who killed a senior Democratic state assemblywoman and her husband in what Governor Tim Walz called, quote, a politically motivated assassination, end quote. The suspect, identified as a 57-year-old Vance Luther Boelter, also allegedly shot and wounded a second lawmaker and his spouse, according to law enforcement officials and the FBI. He fled on foot after firing at police at the home of slain former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark. Law enforcement officials said the suspect abandoned a vehicle that looked like a police SUV in which officers found a, quote, manifesto, end quote, and a target list of other politicians and institutions. Welter should be considered armed and dangerous and is believed to still be in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. So Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension Superintendent David Evans told a news briefing, adding that it was too soon to determine a motive. The suspect had links to evangelical ministries and claimed to be a security expert with experience in the Gaza Strip and Africa, according to online postings. In police records reviewed by Reuters, Boelter also described himself online as a former employee of food service companies and was appointed in 2016 by Walz's predecessor to the Advisory Governor's Workforce Development Board, according to state records. David Carson, who's 59, told Reuters that he has been sharing a house in Minneapolis with Boelter for a little more than a year and last saw him on Friday. He said he last saw him on Friday night. Then about 6 a.m. on Saturday, he received a text from Boelter, quote, he said that he might be dead soon, end quote, said Carlson, who called police. The list found in the vehicle, abandoned by the suspect, contained about 70 names, including abortion providers and lawmakers in Minnesota and other states. CNN reported, citing law enforcement sources. Officials said that the Hortmans and the other victims, State Senator John Huffman and his wife, were also on the list. ABC News, also citing law enforcement officials, said the list included dozens of Minnesota Democrats, including Governor Walz, U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar, and Senator Tina Smith, and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. Now, why is this important? Why is it all of these individuals listed are Democratic lawmakers? So could there be a link between evangelical extremism and MAGA going on here? Is he a Republican? From everything I'm reading, it sounds like he's linked with the the MAGA extremists. I've been telling people for quite some time that this stuff is going to get deadly. It's going to get ugly because you've got one side who is hell bent and determined that no Democrat should live, that no Democrat should have a voice. No Democrat should be able to serve in any official branch of government. Ladies and gentlemen, this political stuff has gotten out of hand. There's no civility. There's no, everything is amorous, bitterness emanating and coming from the extreme right. And you have the surge of the KKK and they don't want to call themselves that now. They're the Proud Boys. They're the same thing. They're one and the same. The Proud Boys, the White Boys, the KKK, or whatever they're calling themselves. They're all one in the same. They've infiltrated throughout law enforcement and other branches of government, and you've got the institutionalized racism going on. But we as a people and we as a nation just can't sit back and say, you know what? Oh, because a certain party's in power, that we don't have a voice. That's where they're wrong at. You can be the leader of whatever party you want to be the leader of, but you don't have the right to try to take the breath and life out of people because your party is a ruling party. It's ridiculous. Governor Walz, who was former Vice President Kamala Harris's Democratic vice presidential running mate in last year's election, said the gunman went to the Hortmans' residence after shooting the Huffmans multiple times in their home in the nearby town of Champlin. The Hoffmans underwent surgery, Walz said, adding that he was cautiously optimistic that they would survive this assassination attempt. Quote, this was an act of targeted political violence, end quote, the governor said. Peaceful discourse is the foundation of our democracy. We don't settle our differences with violence or at gunpoint, end quote. The shooting prompted reactions of shock and horror from Republican and Democratic politicians across the country and calls for dialing back increasingly divisive political rhetoric. It's too late for that now. The poison is in the air. The bitterness. The economy is being destroyed systematically. Why? Because the ICE raids have just gotten out of hand. They're just looking for any and everybody to meet a quota of 3,000 people per day. And a lot of these people who work for ICE, you are going to regret your actions when the time comes. I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back. Tyrone Bowman Live. Thank you all for being patient with me. I had to take a quick break. Tyrone Bowman live. I'm talking about the death of the Democratic lawmakers down in Minnesota, and got to deal with this head on. And as I said before I took the break, the political rhetoric has gotten out of hand. This is ridiculous. Seriously, this is ridiculous. You can be part of whatever group you want to be a part of, political party, but it doesn't mean that you have the right to dictate people's lives. And a lot of these lawmakers, they're going to regret their actions when the time comes, because you're on the wrong side of history, you're on the wrong side of the topics, on the wrong side of the issues. And I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. The economy is out of control. People being evicted. The gas prices are out of control. Food prices are out of control. That was supposed to have been the main cry during the presidential election. But I knew it was a farce, and I knew it was a lie. So let me get back to this here. So the incident prompted reaction from Republicans and Democratic politicians across the country, and calls for dialing back increasingly divisive political rhetoric. The incident comes on the heels of a heated hearing in Congress on Thursday in which Walz and two other Democratic governors defended their state's policies to maintain sanctuary for undocumented immigrants, drawing attacks from Republicans who support Trump's aggressive immigration crackdown. The Minnesota State Patrol Chief, Colonel Christina Bovacek, said police had found flyers in the suspect's vehicle with, quote, "No Kings" printed on them, but that he had no direct links to the thousands of nationwide No Kings protests on Saturday against President Donald Trump's policies. Now, they can't have a vote waved, and then there's a lie in here somewhere. First, they said he was a part of the evangelical wing. Now they're saying they found flyers in his car. See, the lies are being intertwined, trying to make it appear like it was a Democrat who was doing this. The protests were timed to counter Trump's long-sought military parade in Washington. The Organizing No Kings Coalition, canceled all protests in Minnesota, citing a shelter-in-place order and the suspects at large status. Trump said he was briefed on the, quote, terrible shooting that took place in Minnesota, which appears to be a targeted attack against state lawmakers, end quote. Quote, such horrific violence will not be tolerated in the United States of America. God bless the great people of Minnesota, a truly great place, Trump said in a statement, end quote. Hortman and her husband were shot dead in their home in Brooklyn Park, Walz said. The Minneapolis police suburbs in the northern part of Hennepin County, a Democratic stronghold in a state where Republicans have made gains in recent years. Before Hartman's killing, the Minnesota House of Representatives she served in was evenly split, 67-67 between Democrats and Republicans. The FBI released photos of Welter wearing a rubber mask in a police-like uniform and offered a reward of up to $50,000 for information leading to his arrest and conviction. Cowards always want to hide behind something. Law enforcement officials said the gunman attacked the Hoffmans around 2 a.m., then drove about 5 miles to the Hortmans' residence. Brooklyn Park Police Chief Mark Burley said a very intuitive police sergeant who responded to the Hoffman attack asked colleagues to proactively check the Hortmans' home. The two officers arriving at the Hortmans' residence saw a police-like vehicle with lights on and were immediately fired upon by the suspect. Burley said they returned fire, but the suspect ran. How the heck could this person get away? How could he evade police on several occasions? The pre-dawn Minnesota killings come amid a surge in U.S. political attacks in recent years, underscoring the dark side of the nation's deepening political divisions. These include the attempted 2020 kidnapping of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a Democrat, And a man who broke into Democratic Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence in April and set it on fire. In July last year, then candidate Trump escaped an assassination attempt by a gunman while speaking at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. Trump has faced criticism from some opponents over his handling of incidents involving political violence. In one of his first moves in office this year, Trump pardoned nearly everyone criminally charged with participating in the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Let me go to some of the comments here. So you choose your white side. Let me just say something to you cowards who hide behind stuff. There's no white side and black side. Right is right and wrong is wrong. That's the bottom line. I get you got beat up a lot as a kid. No, I was a hellraiser as a kid. I let nobody beat me up. Did you get beat up as a kid? I have found out that most of the people who are on these organizations are cowards and they're wimps and they're gutless. So they get with a bully group in an attempt to be somebody. And that's why they wear hoods and masks and hide their faces. I'm very bold with the statements that I make. I'm not worried about any of you all in the comments section. Believe that when I tell you. All right, I'm getting ready for the next video. Never surrender, never quit.